Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Sokol. I am a content marketing lead here at Orum. We are a live conversation platform that is AI powered, and I am super, super excited today to be joined by both Daisy Chung and Avi Mesh. Avi is one of our enterprise sales executives, and Daisy is our director of sales. We are all Orumites here. We were just talking, we are all wearing green, not on purpose, but we're going to help you guys make some more money. So it all aligns really, really well. We are going to talk all about Nearbound social and how you can use it to basically warm up those cold calling opportunities. Our tool helps you make more cold calls, get into more conversations with more people. And so we want to basically talk about how those cold calls can become warm leads. So we're going to get into the ways that Daisy and Avi have used social media to, make those people who might be complete strangers feel like they know them a little bit more and just kind of get to know them as they begin to reach out. So feel free to chat and any questions on the right. I will do my best to take a look at all of those. But first things first, Avi, Daisy, thank you both for taking the time. You guys are both very, very busy people. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with you, Avi. I want to know, what was your approach to building a following, especially on LinkedIn, when you were just getting started?
My strategy at first was really to start building up a repository of content. So I didn't just start posting one day. Instead, I probably wrote like 20, 30 pieces of content before I really kind of started posting publicly, just to give myself a little bit of a buffer and see what was working and maybe what wasn't, double down on what was. And then, content strategy aside, I was very much like a grassroots from a growth standpoint, where anyone that liked my stuff, I would connect with them on LinkedIn and try to talk to them about what they liked and ask for insight into maybe what else they'd like to hear about from me. So really trying to engage with a lot of folks out of the gate to try to grow my audience organically that way.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting. Obviously, like I said, I'm in content marketing. I very much love someone who has a content strategy. But something, Daisy, we were talking about last week when we were prepping this session is like, not everybody initially feels really comfortable about that concept of like, okay, once they get into the LinkedIn kind of spin cycle, how do they get started? So for you, first things first, like for you, what was your kind of plan of action when you were getting started? And then I want to ask you about how to get comfortable with the whole concept. So first things first, how did you kind of get started on the platform?
Yeah, so Adam, I think for me, I got started without realizing. I've always been a big fan of LinkedIn because you meet different people, you find jobs, it's a great professional networking platform. But I never really thought about creating a following. But over time, I just slowly posted about my company's products, features. It was really easy. We were actually encouraged as a company, hey, we're releasing a new feature. Please share, please do this. And all we have to do is click share, or sometimes our content person will create it and you just copy and paste these different blurbs. So I was just trying to be a team player and help out the company. But over time, I would start seeing the likes, the comments, the social integrations, interactions, and people will start following and adding you. And then you become creating this community of people that you don't really know, but you also kind of know online as well. And so for me, it felt a little organic. And I know a lot of people always ask, well, there's so many influencers out there, so many great content. People are all over LinkedIn, and you feel a little nervous to post your first content. My advice is to start slow by just reposting, sharing, liking. Over time, you'll find the courage to start posting your own content and things that feel genuine to you. Before you know it, you'll start having your own following, people who like your content and like the story you're telling too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Avi.
I was just going to say, I know you didn't ask me the question, Adam, but just to piggyback off what Daisy said, I think it's really great when you're first starting out. You see all these people that are posting great content, and you can start making comments on it and engaging with it that way. And I think that you can formulate a lot of cool ideas based on the comments of other people's content. You don't have to necessarily think you have to recreate the wheel, right? You don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of things that you can apply your own spin on that's already out there.
Yeah, and I really, again, as someone, first off, I appreciate, as the person who is constantly asking people in our company to share stuff, I appreciate people like you guys who do that exact thing. But you're right. Like, I think so often people look at social media as like, I have to come up with this brand new idea that no one's ever had before, and I have to change the world with this one post. When in reality, like, the posts you put out there are very momentary. They're going to kind of get put into the wash, and everything else is going to be in there. So there, I think it is one of the ways you can be a lot more sticky is by, like you said, commenting on posts, connecting with people, and letting them kind of know who you are in that, like, that small moment of space where you can actually connect with them. And I'm curious, Avi, you were talking about having a content strategy and focusing on the things that we're hitting. Have you both shifted your focus on what you share and how often you share now that you've kind of grown a following on that platform? And I'll start with Avi.
I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be. I think for me, it's that just transparently. I sometimes post about things that just I'm thinking about that day, kind of like a public diary in a sense. And then other times it's like word for word talk tracks that have worked for me, or just ideas that I've had that have worked. Right. So my goal is to help coach others to be better at their craft. So that is my motivation, my why in doing it. But sometimes life gets in the way, and so I can't do it every day like I want to. But I'd love to if I could.
Yeah, Daisy, how about you?
Yes, I feel that I've shifted. Before, I did a lot of more company posts and resharing. And nowadays, when I post, it's more of my own thoughts and my genuine thought process. And I've learned that it works really well, not only for your audience, but for yourself to feel truly connected, is when you're sharing something, you have a personal story to it. You have a why this is happening. And I think that's how I've kind of changed over the years, is adding my own personal story and make it a little more genuine, a little more about what I think and what I care about. And that attracts people who enjoy reading your story and thoughts too.
Yeah, something that we were going to talk about a little bit later, but I'll mention here because you guys both mentioning this like kind of idea of it being almost like a daily journal or like your own thoughts. I totally agree. Anyone who follows me or is connected with me on LinkedIn knows that I am very open about writing about mental health and talking about my own personal life in ways that other people might not feel comfortable doing. And for me, I think that is the way that I can connect with people. I can kind of share my open and honest experience about how I'm doing that day, or if I'm struggling with not being able to feel productive because I've just kind of got that mental anxiety going on. And I think, I personally think that's something that I enjoy doing. And it's one of the reasons, like you both said, like, I enjoy being on LinkedIn. I enjoy connecting with people. And so I would much rather connect with them in a way that's authentic to me. I'm curious, both of your thoughts on that concept of like personal versus professional content, just because, it can be a space for social selling and to help people, sharpen their craft. So how do you both feel about putting personal content out there? And Daisy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I personally don't really put personal content, but I do know people do, like
Mhm.
yourself, mental health. And I think that when other people do it, I feel more connected to them. The vulnerability and the opening up to who they are as a person makes them more likable. And I've noticed I've liked people more as I got to know them in different areas. When I'm posting, I like to add, when I think of personal, I think of the personal story and not my personal life. So if I'm sharing something about, let's say, wow, Orum did so great, we blew past our number this quarter, it's been a record-breaking year. And then before I jump into that post and that content, I'll share a little story about when I started with Orum, why I picked Orum, what my personal career with Orum is like, before I give the company a shout out. So that's how I think of personal and professional, where you can blend the both and have that little more connection. But again, all the other folks on my feed that post about their personal life, I'm always a fan of learning more about them outside of work.
Yeah, I love that. Avi, how about you?
Yeah, no notes. I would agree. I think that personally, it's not a ton of personal content for me. Like sometimes it's what's rattling around in my head, but it's more sales centric. So yeah, I think ultimately, like, my goal here on LinkedIn is I want to help people get better at sales, and I want to create name recognition for when I do reach out to prospects. It makes it easier for me to break in that way versus just being totally cold, some random AE reaching out. So,
I actually want to ask you, Avi, something that I think you do a phenomenal job with. And like, for anyone who doesn't follow Avi, I can't recommend this enough because it's basically like getting a daily masterclass in how to do sales. And I'm not just saying this because you agreed to do this with us. Like you do this really wonderful thing where you provide talk tracks all the time on, when you get a specific objection or you want to talk about like specific discovery questions. And it's something where in sales, I feel like everyone is always holding stuff so close to the vest. Like these are our secrets. We can't give this stuff away. But you're not shy about it. Like you offer out strategies for basically handling certain situations. So I'm wondering if you can just kind of like talk through that process of why you feel so comfortable saying like, hey, learn from me, use this specific example. Like what is it that made you realize like this is a great way to connect with people and not feel like you should be keeping those secrets, so close to the vest?
I would like to think, I mean, the reason why I would theoretically keep it close to my vest would be because I was afraid that a competitor could come in and steal my work, my talk track, and win a deal over me. I'm not so worried about that. I think there's a lot more to a sales process than the talk tracks that I'm sharing. I do think that these talk tracks and strategies will help sellers, regardless of industry, improve their craft and close at a higher clip, convert more opportunities. The other thing too to consider, Adam, is that these are just tools and they're also dependent on who is wielding them. And for me, I've always talked about tone, practice, and repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't expect that anyone that looks at my content and tries out a talk track day one is going to see resounding success. I think it's the few that like what they read, try it, practice it, record it over and over again and get it so that it's within their sales DNA. Those are the ones that are going to really see the most success. And unfortunately, I don't know if everybody does that. So that's my thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I really love is like, obviously it's something you're living and breathing every single day. And Daisy, for you, your focus here at Orum has shifted a little bit from direct selling to now you have a leadership role where you are juggling so many different things, pushing deals over the finish line, still needing to keep your own selling skills sharp, doing all these different things. So for other leaders that are watching this, like how can someone in your role who might not be directly involved in that initially building trust with prospects, how do you enter the conversation? How do you kind of like get involved in that entire process?
Yeah, good question, Adam. I think it's two parts. One, you have to train and reiterate to your reps to provide you context because as a manager, you're working so many deals and so many different stakeholders, you forget or you're not as sharp as a rep in that deal. So training and reiterating to your reps, that's very important when they bring you to a deal or they want you to help with the deal, that they give you context on who's who in the zoo, what's important, what's needed, where are the pitfalls, things like that, so that you can put your best thinking cap. Second piece, once you have that context, is the beauty of social media. Social media like LinkedIn is a great way for leaders to jump in and warm up to that prospect when you don't really know them that well. Reason being is because LinkedIn social has your picture, it has mutual connections, it has a lot of posts, a lot of feed. It makes you a warmer person already. And usually it's a very small world. At a certain point, you're going to have mutual connections, and that makes it a lot easier when you reach out and introduce yourself. And because they've been speaking with your rep, it's always a nice, easy, warmer intro when you're saying, hey, thanks so much for working with Avi. I've heard wonderful things. My name is Daisy. I help lead the sales team here. Reaching out because I'm curious XYZ. And by that introduction, it's already a lot warmer, closer. They see a picture to the face and makes it so much easier, especially if I'm able to bring relevant content that my rep has shared with me about the deal.
Yeah, I love that. We got a really interesting question in the chat. I want to ask you both. Is there an early adopter advantage that is starting to wane, or are we still in the early phase of social selling? I'm really curious to get both of your thoughts on this. This is like, I feel like any social platform has that early stage where TikTok is the example I think of just because it's the one, honestly, I'm on most frequently for like learning and different stuff. And when it first launched, people could go on there and get like 100,000 followers at like very, very quickly. And now it's obviously much harder to grow a following there. But from a LinkedIn standpoint, do you think we're still in the early stages of social selling, or has it kind of been saturated? I'll start with you, Daisy.
I think we're still in the early stages. And I say that because the cool thing about social selling and also on LinkedIn is you're kind of a storyteller. You're kind of an author. you're writing, you're talking through things that are important to you in your language, and people who are engaged or following, they're enjoying your story. They love reading it. They're digesting that content. And so I think that the more you are yourself, the more that you write in a tone and build a brand, people know what you're about, they're hooked. And so as long as you have that going, I think we're still very, very early. If you don't have that going and you're kind of all over the place, you kind of post, you kind of don't post, you post about different things and it doesn't really make sense, then it's not really going to work out. But if there's a purpose and you're also enjoying it, people can tell. Are you just posting because it's a kind of your job, you're supposed to, you're forced to, or you're thoroughly enjoying those connections? I think that's when the magic happens, and we're still in the very, very early phases.
Yeah. Avi, what do you think?
So I think it's important to define social selling. So I think like there's two aspects to it. There's first of all, like just posting for brand awareness, for name recognition and thought leadership, which helps with inbound leads. But then also on the outbound side, engaging with people and using the social channel of LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, X, excuse me, to engage with people in that way and build pipeline through social, right? So to answer the question, I think we're in the early phase of it because I don't think many people are doing it correctly. I think a lot of people are, specifically for the outbound prospecting side, using LinkedIn, whatever social, as another opportunity to pitch. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that that's what it should be for. I think it should be for having conversations with people and engaging with people. And then again, going back to that name recognition piece, where now I've had a short conversation in the DMs with you, and I've learned a little bit about your business over LinkedIn through conversations with you or conversations with people that report to you. And then when I call you, I can reference it, right? It warms up all my other interactions. I think that's the correct, my opinion, is that's the correct way to use it. I don't think many people are doing it that way. And I think that that's why it's in this early phase right now.
So along those lines, how often are you referencing content that you've put out into the world when you are in the sales process, when you're, doing cold outreach calls or you're in those discovery calls? Like, how often are you referencing back to things that you may have put out into the world?
I rarely reference the stuff. If anything, it's usually people that I'm in sales processes with. I'll have connected with them on LinkedIn. They'll see things that I've mentioned and they're the ones that bring it up. And we talk about it in that fashion versus me coming to them and talking about the things that I'm posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Daisy, I'm curious. This is something that I want to get both of your thoughts on. Obviously, it's this like interesting dichotomy of we're all so incredibly busy. There's so much to do. There's the prospecting. There's all of the data we need to track. There's meetings and everything. But then we also do all want to be online. We want to see what's going on. So how do you decide what you want to pay attention to, what you want to engage with? Like, is it just when you want to be doing prospecting, or I guess like how do you interact with the content you see on social media?
Yeah, it's a mix of both. I think it's me engaging and reading through what's on my feed and also prospecting because when you're also the other receiving end of it, it teaches you different things and what attracts your attention. And so for me, a couple of things attracts my attention is one, people I trust and people I look up to essentially. Once you build a brand and trust, automatically people flock to you because they like who you are. And so same thing when I'm scrolling through my feed, if there's someone that I look up to, there's someone that has good, concise content, I'm automatically tied to looking at their content. And then on that note, concise, because LinkedIn can get a little crazy if everyone's sharing content, which everyone is. I don't have enough time to really read through someone's content unless it's concise, straight to the point. There's some aha moments, then they've got my attention. And on the flip side of that, that also goes to when you're prospecting. You're not just blasting every single person out there and trying to reach every single person, every single prospect. You also have to be thoughtful, customized, concise, so that you can grab their attention. So it goes both ways.
I'm laughing because I am definitely guilty of being one of those people who writes like a journal entry and then I'm like, all right, dial it back, Adam. No one needs 700 words in my LinkedIn post. But Avi, how about you? How do you decide what you want to engage with, what you're going to spend your time with, and how to kind of use it in the best way possible for you?
So similar to Daisy, like people that I look up to, thought leaders in the space, right? I'd love consuming what they have because I'm a believer that I know very little. I know a lot, but I know very little. So I'm really excited to learn more. So I try to engage as much as I can, or at least see what I can from just a self improvement standpoint. From a prospecting standpoint, what I like to do, it's worked relatively well for me, is when I connect with somebody that I'm prospecting into, that posts frequently on LinkedIn or infrequently, whatever. If I'm connected, I'm hitting that bell button. So I get notified every single time they post something. And that way I can engage with that. And again, have that conversation with people and never miss something that is being brought up by a prospect that I want to either engage with in the future or I'm currently in a sales cycle with, right? Like what they're posting about is what's on their mind. If they're, like Daisy said at the beginning of, starting out with customer or a company posts, that's what's going on in their company. I want to know about it, right? They're posting about it. I want to bring it up in the next conversation that I have with them. So it's finding the balance between the two. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, absolutely. I want a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit more about this. Just saying, I want to remind people, just if you're listening in and you're enjoying the sound of my voice, we're doing a event happy hour in like an hour after this. It is also hosted by me. The difference is we'll actually be able to engage with people there. So Isaac was kind enough to put a link in our chat. If you want to join, feel free. I wanted to throw that out there really quickly before, because I know we only got a little bit of time left here. But something that Avi had brought up when we were discussing this as a group was the idea of the LinkedIn inbox and how crowded it is, and how every single time one of us gets a connection request from someone you don't really recognize, you hold your breath, because if you hit yes, it's like at least 50-50 that message is going to be like, I wanted to show you XYZ product. How can I help? Or what can I do? You wouldn't believe this. So how do you guys dispel this like common expectation of when you do connect with someone, that it's not just going to be that instant, like, great to connect, let me show you this thing? So Avi, I'm curious, how do you use that from a selling standpoint where it's a way that isn't people instantly rolling their eyes?
I mean, it's a long-term play. It's about building relationships with people, right? So I feel like a lot of people that are in the sales role, or SDRs, BDRs, whatever, will connect with somebody and then immediately start pitching. And my strategy is instead to connect with people and then sort of slowly start engaging in their feeds, connecting with their coworkers and engaging with their content. And then over time, hopefully building up some kind of name recognition. And then at that point, it's going into their direct messages and asking a simple question, because now I'm not just a random salesperson that's pitching them right away. I'm somebody that's trying to build a relationship and a connection with them, with their business, with their colleagues. And I'm much more likely to get some kind of engagement from them, which I can then leverage in whatever other channel I want to use: email, phone, video, whatever.
Daisy, how about you?
Yeah, I'll be spot on. At the end of the day, no one wants to be sold to. Everyone wants to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So if you're out there selling to them, saying the same thing on LinkedIn that everyone else is saying, you're going to get ignored. But if you're thinking about the long-term relationship, as Avi shared, those are the people want to buy from. So it's all about perspective there.
Yeah. We've got like 2 minutes left. I want to check it. This is David just wrote a really good question. How do you manage these separate long-term multi-touch plays? Avi, I'll start with you, because again, I know you're selling every single day. How do you manage multiple, like, long-term kind of omni-channel selling with people? I think the question is like, how do you keep everything straight in your brain? But I'll let you answer it however you like.
Sequences, they've got touch points in there. You could talk about LinkedIn engagement, right? So it's, I think, just creating some kind of regular cadence to get in there and get your hands dirty and start connecting with people in their network. And then it's also ad hoc too. So it's I'm connecting with people. We all know the LinkedIn feed, and if I see somebody pop up that's relevant within my network, that is an account that I'm trying to sell into, engaging with it, and just kind of knowing that I am building up those goodwill chips. So to summarize, ad hoc and then scheduled within sequences.
Yeah. Daisy, I imagine you have to deal with a lot of long-term, like keeping multiple deals in your head. How do you kind of keep everything straight?
A couple of things for the big prospects and things you're working. I note those down. So I'm always thinking of them every week. However, I try to think of social media as a way of, how do I get them noticing me with me doing minimal work? And I think that's the beauty of LinkedIn. It's all about subliminal marketing. It's all about free marketing, essentially. When you're liking and commenting, once someone's connected to you, they see everything, whether they like it or not, usually. And so just knowing that, and the way I'm posting, liking, commenting, I know that they're being sold to or influenced without me being direct. And that's kind of the energy you want to create. Because again, people love to buy, but nobody wants to be sold to.
That's beautiful. All right. We are right at time. If you're interested, I just put orum.com. You can find more about our company there. Happy to connect with anybody who wants to connect with any of us on LinkedIn. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This was an absolute blast. And Avi and Daisy, thank you for taking some time out of your day. I really appreciate you.
Of course.
Of course. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks,
See you.
Adam.